Hello, I hope this video finds you well. Today we're gonna learn how to simplify in a negative square, a square root that has under his root a negative sign. But first of all, I want to remind you about what a square root of -1 equal. The square root of -1, we represented it by I for imaginary. So in this video, we're gonna go through 3 examples. Let's start and work the first example. I'm gonna show you how that works. So we have square root of -48. We can break this down to square root of -1 times square root of +48. And we know that the square root of -1 represented by I, right? And we can break this down also to square root of 16 times square root of 3. And the reason why I choose 16, because I know it's a perfect square. I want you to remember the square number. Of course, you cannot remember all of them, but we do have 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, etc. So we know that the square root of 16, it's 4 square, which is gonna end up with 4, right? Because look at this, 16, it's 4 times 4, right? And square of 16, it's square root of 4 times 4, right? Which is square root of 4 square. And we know the square cancel the square root, right? So we're gonna end up with 4. Okay, this is just was a short explanation. Let's go back to our main example. So as I said, this is I times this. Don't forget your I here. Okay, so we have I times 4. We just simplify the square root of 16, give us like 4 times square root of 3. We can do nothing with the square root of 3 because it's not like a perfect square. So this is like a reminder. This is like a leftover, if we can say that. So we're gonna end up with 4i square root of 3. So the square root of -48 equal 4 times I times square root of 3. Okay, let's work this example, the second example. 40 square root of -45. Again, we can break this into square root of -1 times the square root of +45, right? And we know that 45, it's 9 times 5. And the reason why I choose 9, because I know it's a perfect square. So this will be square root of 9 times 5, which is square root of 9 times square root of 5. And we know this is stand for I, imaginary number. You remember this? I talked about it in the beginning of the video. And we know the square root of 9 is just 3 times square root of 5. So this is gonna give us 3 times I, 3i square root of 5. So square root of -45 is just 3i square root of 5. Let's work this last problem. I think I forget a negative sign here. And we know that a -1 equals I. So this is Also, we can break it like into square root of -1 times square root of positive 72. And we know that 72, it's 9 times 8, right? So this is going to give us square root of -1 times square root of 9 times 8, which is square root of, and we know that also 8, it's 4 times 2, right? So I'm just going to go back here and substitute 8 by 4 times 2. And why I'm doing this, I'm trying to look for the maximum of the perfect square so I can get like a simplified result, solution. So times, we know this is going to be square root of 9 times square root of 4 times square root of 2. And we know that the square root of 4 is just like square root of 2 squared. This is going to cancel square root, so we're going to end up with 2. Okay? And square root of 9 is just 3. We're doing the same method. Okay? Square root of 3 square, and the square going to cancel the square root, and we're going to end up with 3. Okay? So this is, we know it stands for I. Okay? Square root of -1 is just I times 3 times 2 times square root of 2. Okay, so this is gonna be 3 times 2 is just 6, 6i square root of 2. So the square root of -72, it will end up 6i square root of 2. And we cannot simplify this because it's not like a perfect square, which is going to be just like a leftover or a reminder. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you understand. And if you have any question, you can leave it under the video. Thank you.